Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Our topic is Revolutionizing IT Project Delivery, Embracing the Future with OnePlan's AI-powered strategic portfolio and work management platform. This webinar will be hosted by Jim Patterson. Please explore our YouTube channel if you like this content.
Today's topic is a familiar one, OnePlan delivering strategic portfolio and work management to its customers. But we're focusing today on the unique challenges in many ways of IT project delivery and how that's being revolutionized with solutions like OnePlan strategic portfolio management and augmented with an AI-powered assistant within the solution. So with that, let's get started. You know, important aspects of IT project delivery, just to set the landscape a little bit. You know, IT leaders have a complex job. They manage the entire technology infrastructure and all related things around that to help an organization be its most effective and most efficient. Now, done well, it can create significant competitive advantages for an organization and make it leap ahead of its competition. Now, the challenge at a high level is IT has operational things and day-to-day things that have to happen. And very often those things take precedence or take over because of the urgency and the nature of keeping the lights on, etc. Oftentimes, strategic efforts and projects do get overshadowed or sometimes put on the back burner because of that operational urgency. To preclude that and make sure the organization gets to where it wants to get, we need to better prioritize and accommodate that and identify what resources are needed to be successful across the board and balance our needs between operational and more strategic projects and things we need to do. So some of the challenges we have in delivering projects in IT are fairly universal in this one, resource constraints. But IT has its own unique set and variety of resources that it has to manage. Not only just people, but hardware, software, funding, and a lot of things dependent on external vendors many times for these. Now, finding the right balances of resources to complete the project within our constraints and deliver the outcomes that we want can be a challenge, especially when they're pulled into more operational things, as we had mentioned, and there's competing priorities. The uncertainty, you know, we live in an uncertain age and change is rapid. And IT often gets involved in complex and rapidly changing technologies as part of their projects. And sometimes it makes it difficult to predict outcomes, or technology bases can change over the lifespan of a project, even something that's not that very long. And this uncertainty can make it difficult to plan, execute, and control a project effectively. Then there's stakeholder management. There's lots of stakeholders involved here. Essentially, there's different needs and competing interests and priorities for these stakeholders. And this can be a challenge to manage across that and meet the needs of all those and consider to be a success across the board. But we need to have some things to help ensure or better ensure that stakeholders are aligned with both the organizational goals of what the reason organizationally we want to get to and the project goals themselves to make sure that those outcomes are realized and recognized by all. And then there's risk. You know, IT projects are inherently risky by their nature, and to basically identify and assess them and manage them effectively, we need a systematic approach and a way to have visibility into them so that we factor those in and try to catch them before they turn into real issues or real detriments or blockers to our projects. There's also in IT complex dependencies. Meaning there's a lot of interrelating things that need to come into play, whether they're dependencies, associations, or even things that have to be factored in. They can even go into making decisions on what you decide to approve out of your funnel of intake of possible ideas and requests that you have. And these things can include elements of your enterprise and business architecture. And then committing to the strategic projects like we talked about, you know, in addition to the day-to-day operational activities that you have, can be a challenge when we're asked to do more with less, and sometimes we have smaller teams than we ever had. Now, if we don't achieve the right balance, the challenge here is that we'll have missed opportunities, and there is an opportunity or a real cost to the organization that we might have that may be a consequence that we don't want to realize. And so we want to make sure that those projects on your longer term to-do list, the ones that are more strategic, that we don't defer those to our detriment. Now, to do that, you know, one of the things you might want to put in place is some measure of prioritization. Now, I'm not prescribing that this might be the specific way, and many organizations have their own way that they do their prioritization today. But you have to have a method to address demand that comes in. And we often, in IT, we always get more demand than we can possibly do. And we have to be able to prioritize competing candidate investment proposals against one another, maybe have some common valuation method so we can determine which ones we should do ahead of others. Now, some of the factors that you might consider in a kind of a weighted scoring model might be how well it strategically aligns with the organizational goals or their digital business goals and objectives. What business process impact, for example, is it going to be so impactful that we can't accommodate it right now because the change is so sweeping? Or do we need to totally redesign our business processes so that we can succeed with this project and get the benefits of what we're trying to accomplish here? Technical architecture. Is there integration required? Is there the scalability and resilience of databases and systems out there and applications so that we can accommodate what we're going to do with this project? That we have to do these things in harmony with one another such that we can achieve the end goal together at the end line. And the direct payback and the value that we're going to get from a project. For example, conventionally understood financial benefits, there's softer cost savings, there's competitive advantage, other paybacks that we hope to achieve with these types of things. And then risk avoidance, identification of the organization's tolerance for risk. Some projects are much more riskier than others. And the idea that should factor into an overall score based on the nature and the risk tolerance of your organization. So overall, the key here is to have some prioritization mechanism and some funnel that brings some order to the chaos of all the things that come in. Portfolio design should probably use your overall business and enterprise architecture. And to succeed in achieving desired outcomes, the leaders of these aspects must contribute to the portfolio design using business architecture to close the strategy to execution gap, because there is a gap today where many organizations have execution portfolios of projects that they're doing and not necessarily are well aligned to the strategic goals and objectives and the vision of the organization. Now, the Gartner Group put out a publication about how to design strategic portfolios using business architecture. One of the key findings is that if you do not collaborate with the enterprise architecture elements of this and the folks responsible for that in the execution of initiatives, we may not align to or mature to the capabilities critical for the organization's future state where we want to get to. Because if one does not keep up with the other or factor in the other, we could end up with a failure and no benefit at the end of the day. And sometimes if they're not aligned, portfolio decisions are uninformed because the views have not been tailored to meet the executive's needs, and they may or may not get what they want out of the effort and or the system. And oftentimes it's the smaller undetected changes, not the large big bang of types of disruptions that cause our portfolio strategies to diverge and further create that gap bigger than it was to start with. Now, from a recommendation perspective, Gartner says that we need to ensure that portfolios are aligned with business outcomes by using techniques that help us collaborate with strategic portfolio leaders, the ones that are actually setting the course for the organization. And we also need to identify and help fulfill the portfolio design by giving executives the information they want so they have a comfort level that we're tracking well on how to achieve those things and that we're working on the right things to help to achieve those things. And then we also have to be flexible, and we have to have ongoing portfolio and roadmap refinement and be flexible and adaptable enough so that we can adjust to changing situations, changing technologies, changing direction by our leadership based upon marketplace changes, et cetera. And we want to make sure that we do this in a way so that we remain in alignment and don't diverge from our enterprise strategy. So overcoming some IT project management challenges, unlike other project managers in other industries, project managers face unique challenges in IT that may not affect other PMs in other areas. Communications with multiple suppliers and vendors. With technology, oftentimes you have software, hardware, services vendors, et cetera. And each one acts really as a stakeholder in your project. And if we if we're not aligned with their processes or they're aligned with ours, it can impact our ability to deliver. And there's the speed of progress, which I alluded to earlier on. Advancing technology can overtake a project. This can lead us to, in the midst of our project, maybe multiple times review the specifications, figure out how a new technology aspect can be enhanced into the final product. And we have to address this because sometimes customers will demand it, and they don't want something to be already outmoded or maybe deficient with available technology when you deliver the project at the end of the day. So you may be forced to include these things, and it's a disruptor. There are complex dependencies between the IT components. So whether it be hardware, software, versions and releases that you have from third-party vendors, whether it be things in your enterprise architecture or your networks, these things all have to be factored in, and it leads to complexity. And oftentimes with technologies, it comes down, if we have to incorporate these things or we embark upon a project for the first, it really comes down to at first, taking what we really thought of as traditional portfolio management in the past, or PPM, and where we got good visibility and better visibility into our projects and allocating resources across them and such. Many organizations are just now getting into the notion of aligning strategy better with the portfolio and with the execution so that we can have success in the right areas and in the right way. And then we need to have a shared objectives with our business strategists with the execution pieces, such that as Gartner Group describes it, it's a set of processes, the strategic alignment and the strategic portfolio management, involving people, strategy, and the operations piece of IT. And as a system, so it's a system of strategy development, then planning, and then organizational alignment around those plans, and then operational plans and project plans, et cetera, that we are monitoring and learning as we go and adapting if things change, and making sure that we execute and deliver things that the customers want and need and deliver the right value at the end of the day. So strategic portfolio management, which is, the acronym is SPM, Gartner defines it as a set of business capabilities, processes, and supporting portfolio management technology. And if you look at the graphic here on the right, there are the objectives and the strategies, there are key results, there are different work efforts, and there's projects and epics and specific features you might deliver as part of software values. And there's other things like products and business capabilities and value streams you're aligned with for continuous delivery. All these things come into play in many of your more complex cross-functional IT projects. So leadership requires SPM, or strategic portfolio management, to support enterprise-wide strategy to execution, alignment, and adaptation, because IT projects aren't by their nature isolated in an isolated world. There are your business stakeholders and the people that you are doing many of these projects for that have to be in alignment, and they're actually potentially active participants in not only the requirements, but also in the reviews and the user acceptance testing and all the other aspects of that you have to get them involved. And the definition of key business strategies and the desired outcomes have to map to more than just the projects and the resources and the tasks. There are things you have to factor in, like business capabilities, programs, your digital and physical products, the applications that might have to be addressed, and even other projects that you may be dependent on in order to arrive at the finish line successfully. And so we have to capture and define the business strategies, manage the execution of the initiatives and the projects, and then factor in the core functional assets or IT assets that may be required to deliver on our vision. And ultimately, it's the leadership who sets the direction in your organization that we want to align with, right? We want to get to the end of the day where they want the organization to go. You have the IT and functional management who own the critical assets and the infrastructure here in IT that we're talking about. And the execution teams are the execution teams in maybe an IT organization, an IT PMO that basically has to deliver on these things and track and provide progress and reporting. So why is this important? Well, it's important because our environment just keeps getting more complex and the pace of change keeps accelerating. So as they become more complex and uncertain, we have to be always monitoring and managing risk, optimizing the portfolios continuously to make sure that they continue to be aligned with strategic goals. And there's a greater need for financial and resource optimization. We're being asked to do more with less, and we got to make sure that we're putting our best resources and our dollars on the things that are going to give us the greatest value in return for the things that the organization needs. And we also have to have this because there's a real demand now for data-driven decision making. It's all about analytics these days. I don't care if you're in marketing or in project management, whatever it is. And the idea is you need to have that pane of glass to provide the insights you need to make decisions. And if you're going to adjust and be flexible, you have to have the data points on which to make those decisions on. And then we have multiple methodologies. So People are using Agile or some variations of Agile, or still using some waterfall types of approaches. And they may be, because of that, using different tools, spreadsheets, and other things around the organization. We got to get a handle on that. We have to make sure that we have greater visibility and hopefully get a more single pane of glass for that stuff, so that we can make sure that everything's rowing in the direction of our strategic goals. And then emerging technologies and business models. IT is there to deliver value as a strategic partner in the business. And if the organization needs to adapt to the new digital age and find new ways to deliver their products, the new ways to reach customers, the new ways to transact business out in the marketplace, we need to be there to help them do that, because we're the key component in IT that makes that happen. Now, OnePlan, as a solution, provides a path to full strategic portfolio management for the enterprise. We basically have, for the business leaders, the ability to document the strategy. We can put objectives and key results in here, and be able to identify the key value streams that we want to manage to, and put those in the solution as our North Star and guiding post for where we want to go as an organization. We have the tools for the execution leaders, the portfolio managers, et cetera, that need to support the selection and the planning and the execution of all this. And regardless of whatever methodology or approach is being used, or maybe some combination of all these, it might be a complex organization where you have some adaptive, which is multi-methodology, multi-framework, or multi-tools that are needed to support the execution, or professional services automation, or more agile, strictly agile approaches, or maybe even more product-oriented development. Those things can all be accommodated in OnePlan. And then the functional leaders, the ones that own the assets and the resources and the enterprise architecture and the application portfolio and the product portfolio, there's tools in here for them so that we can align these things all together as needed. Now, OnePlan can meet you where you're at. This is an evolution for many organizations, and many are not, ready to have all components of this put in place. But you can take a crawl, walk, run approach to this. You can adopt the things that you can adopt, and then aspire in a roadmap type of fashion, in a phased approach, to adopt the things that you want to do in this later on. So what capabilities does OnePlan have to help enable the things that I'm talking about? Well, on the intake and upfront side things, OnePlan does have strategy execution, where you can outline the strategies and the objectives and the key results that leadership wants to see the organization achieve. We can actually identify enterprise architecture elements. We are not a full enterprise architecture repository, but we can either outline those things here in the way that an organization that doesn't have an enterprise architecture tool may want to, or we can use our connector technology to bring in components from an enterprise architecture solution or repository that you already have in place. And then out of those generally come ideas and requests that are hopefully aligned with where we want to go or where we are as an organization, and have that one common funnel, that one place that people can go, not scattered ad hoc emails, but a place where we can evaluate, put scoring against those types of things, so that when we choose our portfolio and we want to plan that portfolio, whether it be in a more traditional list type of view or more agile boards, or maybe in more roadmap types of views, we can leverage those things to make good decisions on what it is we want to execute on. Now, resources is a constraining factor, and unless we have visibility into the resource requirements and what it's going to take to get those things done, whether or not we say yes, if we can't deliver the resources, we may not be able to deliver the things that we're committing to, and we have to have our eye on that at all times. Same thing with the dollars. Do we have the dollars to do this in our financial budgets to make that happen? And are we tracking well with what we said, both plan, maybe revised forecast, actuals, et cetera? And the key here, we talked about change. Being able to do what if scenario modeling and look at alternatives without yet impacting the core production portfolio is a set of tools that you want to have in OnePlan to be able to evaluate those alternatives and model them out before you actually decide to embark upon that approach. Now, the execution side in here, obviously you have to execute, and you have to put in work plans, whether they be more waterfall plans or more agile plans with sprints and backlogs. And we have those tools right in OnePlan. We don't really require other planning tools, but if you do have others that you've adopted and you're kind of committed to, we have built-in connectors for things like Microsoft Project and Smartsheet and Azure DevOps and Jira, et cetera, that we can work with, and even track those other aspects we talked about, like the issues and risks, or documenting changes and evaluating those within here. Now, the resource planning at the individual project level, we can actually have full resource negotiations with the functional managers who actually manage the individual resources and maybe determine who you get so that it rolls up into that bigger resource capacity plan I talked about in the planning phase. And then team members, feeding that in real time, my work areas, so that they can see everything that's on their plate and feed status back to the projects at any given point in time, or timesheets if you need to do that, whether it be for capitalization of labor, whether it be for chargebacks within for IT services within your organization, or maybe you're billing to external clients for your services as well. Those things are built right into the tool. And then the analysis of the reporting, whether it be individual project status reports, whether it's dashboards for at the portfolio level, at the program level, or at the resource capacity level, et cetera, or maybe even strategic execution reports. Those types of things are available in OnePlan as well. And as we get this more complex and we have more interrelations here within the solution, visualizations of how these things all interrelate with one another, how they're associated across the board, is something that's important as a natural output and something that's basic within OnePlan. Now, part of the thing we talked about in our title was our AI. And with the advent of AI, there's a couple dimensions there. One, we're leveraging our own Sophia GPT for generative AI, so that with prompts you can actually ask it to do things for you. You can ask for certain analyses that you may not be able to do readily with your own human perception. And the idea is it's available to you right within OnePlan while you're working with your projects and your portfolios and your resources, et cetera. The key is to help you select the right work to work on that's aligned with your strategy, and then execute on it well. You know, the whole idea of AI here is interesting because it affects the portfolio, and IT's, you know, being impacted right now with projects that are coming to say, all right, how are we going to leverage this? How are we going to govern this? How are we going to incorporate this in a way in our organization that maintains our ways of doing things, but also maybe make us more efficient? And how does it impact freeing our people up to maybe do more high value activities than the things that AI might be able to do for us? And we'll talk about this here today. But the key is this isn't limited to IT. You know, IT is, you know, many of the projects that you work on touch or have direct involvement by the actual units within the business that you are supporting or delivering to as your internal customers. And the key here is that these concepts permeate across the board and can actually foster participation for cross-functional projects across your organization or enterprise-wide initiatives or transformation initiatives. So Sophia GPT is really a purpose-built AI assistant that helps collaboration, intuitive interaction and analysis, data integration to help you formulate plans and even report on plans, and actually can help things like data entry and find anomalies and those types of things. And this is purpose-built for strategic portfolio management. It is leveraging Microsoft's Azure OpenAI within its infrastructure, which is more secure and more compliant than what you might find with ChatGPT out in the open internet. But it's also learned OnePlan, it's also learned strategic portfolio management, it's also learned the disciplines and things around that. And it can also, on a dynamic basis, leverage the data you're looking at within OnePlan as part of your analysis without storing that data or looking at or learning from it, but leveraging it to help you do your work. And it's always available in OnePlan. So at any given point in time, you can call up Sophia and give it some prompts, and we'll show you some examples of that today. Now, incorporating generative AI into overall SPM practices, it's not about changing the practices themselves, it's about making them better. So for example, streamlining portfolio intake and prioritization, we can leverage AI to help us with that. Building next generation talent, you know, we can adapt to AI by making sure that the people that work within our organization are skilled at leveraging it to our advantage and their advantage, and making us more efficient and more effective within the organization. And in embracing disruptive technologies, if there was ever a disruptive technology that's being quickly embraced, it's AI. And much of our portfolio may be AI related here as we come down this next set of months and years upcoming, as we incorporate and find out ways to optimize the benefits for that. Now, sample use cases for AI in strategic portfolio management would include things like augmenting our strategic planning, help us optimize our portfolios. In our work management, help us with resources and tasks and timelines and things like that. Helping us assess risk a little bit better. Helping us with resource allocation and making sure we understand where we might have needs or where we might have problems. And then investment forecasting, maybe doing financial analysis and raising some issues or giving us some help in actually building those resource plans themselves or our financial plans themselves. I will bring up OnePlan as a tool set and going to go through a very high level overview of this today, but give you an idea how it can address all the things we talked about in the slides. So here I'm looking at a home page in OnePlan, and depending on the role you're given, you may see different things or the extent of different data in here, but the idea is to give that user, an individual user, a hub to get to the things that they need to get to. For example, access to the plans that they're involved in without having to navigate through the entire portfolio and be able to get quick access into the different aspects of those plans that they need to get into. Alerts or insights into things that require their attention or things they may need to address. Recent conversations on tasks or resources or plans themselves, and be able to give them ready access into those threads should you want to go into more detail and see the more recent things that involve you that are, need your attention. And then things that might be due soon, the things that you might need to provide status on, etc. Those are things that are all available to you. Now, we talked about this all starting with strategy. So let me start up front with that. If we are going to have an optimized portfolio that's aligned with strategy, we need to have a strategy in the first place. And OnePlan gives you the ability to define that strategy. And here we have it modeled in an objectives and key results model, or OKR model. And as we look through the objectives and the key results, you can see here that we have objectives, we have key results associated with them, which are the tangible measures of progress of saying, are we achieving progress towards that, or have we achieved that objective as we go on through? And some of them can be IT related, like improving IT infrastructure, right, etc. And the idea there is those types of things can be overall strategies of which we have projects and initiatives that support them. So for example, if I went into the objective of increase our project success rate and drill into it, you can define the attributes and the fields of data you'd like to capture around this. We talk about maybe prioritization, even prior to prioritizing the strategy, have a weighted scored prioritization mechanism for the strategy itself. Maybe even timelines of when we want to get those things done, what it's going to cost, what benefits and return on investment we're going to have, and even an approval strategy on how we're doing across all that. And notice that we have associated items here. We have associated key results that are available to us. But where this comes in is this is not a standalone execution plan. This is now going to be tied, and we're going to show you as part of this demonstration how it's related to the rest of the solution, meaning that there's no other strategies here dependency-wise that we're dependent on, but this strategy does have a lot of different facets that are associated or related to what we're trying to do. To increase this project success rate, we have 3 tangible key results that we're trying to achieve. There are 4 projects and/or epics that are in our portfolio that are being executed on to support the achievement of those. And then in alignment with those, there are now products and applications and business capabilities, for example, and value streams that these are associated with. And we can see that some of them are actually at risk, for example. And there may be a product or an application that I may want to go look at and understand where it's at and why it might be yellow or why it might be at risk and how it might be impacting what we're going to be doing within achieving this particular strategy. And this type of view is available to us throughout the entire tool set. If I drill into the key result here, for example, I can not only pop that out, but I can go in here and drill into, implement a governance framework. And I can just drill through to that item from here and live and see that I do actually have a dependency that is waiting on me for this particular key result, but also look at this from the context of this key result and see the projects and epics and the applications and other things that may be related to that specific key result as well. And if I look at the details around this, you can see that you can define in these forms, which are drag and drop buildable, is that you could have different sections with the way you categorize these things, the way you choose what the metrics is. In this case, we're basically have a target number and a percentage of that we're looking at getting, or it could be dollars, it could be other kinds of metrics. And the idea is that then this is associated with the plans and or the enterprise architecture items that are germane to this particular key result. So once again, this strategy sets the course. Now, before they become projects, you may have an intake. You may have ideas or requests that come in. And I'll just go in here and look at a plain list right now of those requests, and come in here and take a look at the fact that we may have a portal where anybody in your organization, wherever you allow to, may come in here and create an idea. And if they create an idea, they may put a business case together. There may be different aspects of this. You may have people, vote on these ideas, et cetera, as you go through here, and be able to look at, crowdsourcing and overall sentiment around this, as well as that. And as you go in here, you can go into a particular thing. I'll go into website redesign here. And as I look at it, you can capture the things you want. You can have an overall business case. Think of this as your funnel into your portfolio without clogging up your portfolio with a bunch of things that you may not do. Here I have a narratives for business case. I have the characterizations or the categorizations of the project. I have prioritization scoring mechanisms. One is more business driver related, like with strategic alignment, risk reduction, et cetera, right? That calculates a prioritization score. Or maybe if you have a more agile methodology or lean, you may be using a weighted shortest job first and having those metrics in here, in there. And then you can see here that there's a key result that this idea is aligned with. So it may factor into our decision on whether or not we would do that. And once again, I could call up the visualizer at any given point in time here to basically show me, how this is potentially associated or impacted with other things as we've defined it. Now, the nice thing here is that you can come in to these ideas, and at any given point in time through workflow or through somebody with permissions having the right permissions to do that, we can actually convert or reorganize these and promote these ideas into projects or epics or whatever your plan types are that we'll talk about here in a minute. But the idea is that you can have this continuum without having to recreate things, and just move this through a process to where these ideas can then be moved into a portfolio. And this active portfolio would be where you would actually manage your initiatives and your projects. So here, for example, very IT related, a data analytics transformation. And then we have our enterprise data platform program within that. Now, how is that there? Well, we can define what we call a plan type hierarchy in different plan types. And here, one example, and this doesn't have to be the way you model it. We have a portfolio level. We can have one or more portfolios. Those portfolios can have programs within them. And then we have the detailed projects and epics within them that we can manage within them. And so within here, I can see a bunch of projects and epics that are within this enterprise data platform underneath this data analytics transformation portfolio. And you can determine different portfolios and who has access to what with a full security model to determine different branches of that portfolio if you want to go broadly across an organization. Also notice that there's icons here that say that we can that we are tied to or connected to other technologies outside of OnePlan. Here we're connected to a team site for content and collaboration. This one's connected to Microsoft Planner for some detailed tasks, or Azure DevOps in this one, Smartsheet in this one, Jira in this one, Microsoft Project for the web here, and Microsoft Project Desktop. Some of the more common ones that we deal with. But the ones that don't have a planning or project scheduling tool associated with it, that may be being managed right here within OnePlan. And the idea is that we can do that full execution within here. What's nice about this, if I drill into a particular plan, you can actually capture the details around this full project plan. And here I've got the business case captured that came over from the actual request itself. I got the categorization, I got your project life cycle, and I've got the different metrics and KPIs that you may want. Now this is completely configurable based on the way you want to look at the world. Now the work planning, this is in here so that you can actually come in and you could actually look at a waterfall plan in this particular case. You could look at it, with or without the Gantt chart representation that people are expecting to look at within here. We can also look at this from a board perspective and look at it from a more of a Kanban board. But we also have different work types, just like we have plan types, such that if you were doing an agile plan, we can have a backlog work type where we are doing more agile backlogs and potentially putting in sprints, etc. And we can either build them right here in OnePlan, or we could connect them to other agile tools and bring that data in from those other agile tools to roll up into the portfolio, so we get that single pane of glass that I was talking about earlier on. Okay, and then individual resource plans can be built in here such that we can build up the capacity either from the top down, from more of an FTE or higher level perspective, or from a roll up from the resources that are assigned to your tasks. And the same thing holds true with your financials, that you could have your detailed cost categories in here and manage your financials here as you see fit. Now, back in these portfolios, we can leverage different views. I can have different, list views here where I might have ones that are more financial oriented, maybe ones that are more effort oriented, maybe ones that are more schedule oriented. And I could also look at this in a variety of ways. I'm showing this by a primary plan type hierarchy that I talked about with the portfolios and the programs. But if you have any types of metadata that you want to add into the system, I could sit here and say, all right, this is not the way the primary hierarchy is structured, but let me see this by business unit. And here I can basically go in and say, all right, what are my application business unit projects look like? And I can group or filter or summarize by that. I can look at them by, say, category. And now I can go in here, what are my business transformation projects? And I can look at them flexibly in any way I'd like. So once again, a lot of flexibility there. And you can also work with these in terms of agile boards so that you can have the cards and you can do the columns and the swim lanes by any data element that we have available to us in OnePlan. And you can even do swim lanes the same way. So for example, here I can look at the proposed and active projects, and in this board view, if I want to look at it, say once again by business unit, I can see here's the things that I'm doing that are proposed and active within the applications area, and I can see some are turning yellow or at risk, some are green and on track, and from here I can actually go in and do that same quick edit or drill through on here to get to the projects and get to the data that I want to regarding any of those things and get a quick assessment of the data that's available to me in there. And we also have roadmap views. So those of you that want to provide roadmaps and when things are going to get delivered, we can actually do those things and group the swim lanes by whatever it is that you'd like. In this case, it's by business unit again. But once again, let me just take the category one and I can basically say, here's my business transformation roadmap, here's my compliance roadmap, et cetera. And here's some key milestones like program increments or quarters or different release dates that you might want to track to that align with those along the way. Okay. As you go through this, you can use Sophia either in the portfolio itself, or let me go back to the ideas area, and let's just say we're contemplating what we would like to do in here. And then let me say I want to go open up the my prioritization view that has my scoring in it and such, right? And look at that from that perspective. And when I do so, I'm going to call up Sophia and maybe have her do some analysis for me. So down here in the lower right, I go to Sophia, and they give you some examples in here of things that you might ask it. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to ask her, based on priority and ROI, what 3 projects should we approve first and why? And let Sophia kind of give me an idea what her take is on this based upon the different data points that we have in here. And it might help me get some insights that I might not have gotten on the surface from my own analysis. And it says, based on priority and ROI, it's suggesting that we do the cybersecurity audit priority because it's high. The budget and benefits look good. And additionally, it addresses a critical need to actively protect the organization from cyber risk. So there's a subjective piece to that, not just to the thing of what it knows about that type of project. And voice assistant integration give me the same type of rationale. Now in the portfolio, if I went in and said, just want to look at the active portfolio, not just the ideas area, I could ask it a question that might be more germane to that. So for example, if I, look at the entire portfolio here and I say to Sophia, which 3 projects are at highest risk of failure and why? And have it give me some analysis there. And it'll take a look, take a look at what's there, what the KPIs and the data and the metrics are saying to us, and give me some assessment on that. So it tells me that it is off track. It's facing significant challenge in meeting deadlines and staying within budget, so high risk of failure. The EPIC in the IT business unit is on hold in this concept development, and it's already on hold, and it has issues with finances and its schedule. Brand management also has its issues, and it's giving me its analysis of that. So once again, something in the portfolio, but once again, you could ask it anything you like related to the status, the risk, the et cetera, and I'll show you some other static examples of that as we go on through this. Now, there's a resource plan in here that would actually allow me to take that individual project resource plan that I showed you on a specific project, and then be able to come in here and be able to look at this by, say, different resources and roles, right? And as I come through here, and I can take a look at different, aspects in here, and I can go in and, add a variety of different organizations in here as I want to, as I can categorize my different parts of the business. And as I go in here and I want to expand this view, I can go in here and I can see that I have a number of developers in here. This is all rolling up from the rest of the projects. In this particular case, I'm looking at the roles and I can see, I'm looking at it in terms of hours, but let me just look at it in a full-time equivalence perspective. And I can see here that I'm over allocated in the developer ranks overall, because it starts here in March where I have a capacity of 5 and I'm now 6+ needed. In April, I have 5 and I'm 8+ required. I have an overage of 3.5. I also still have individuals who are individually over allocated, which if I had this visibility, I probably wouldn't have them this degree of over allocated in the first place before I gave them other things. But I also still have generic developer hours or effort that is basically allocated that we haven't put names to yet. So on top of that, we still haven't figured out who's going to do some of those things. Now, if I came into the developer rank here and I said, I was going to go into the customer experience one and say, I want to find a resource that's available for that, I could come in here and say, let me find some resources by criteria or by best match. And I can come in here and determine, well, the customer experience where I need the time, it looks like the only one who has availability in that time is Toby Stevens. I could potentially take Toby and say, let me replace that resource above with Toby and resolve that issue right there as I go through, as I try to reconcile these things across. Once again, a lot of this is available to us at any given point in time. Now, if I go into the overall resource summary, this one's going to give me a list of all my resources as I go through there, and it's also going to let me see all of the things that these people are assigned to. If I expand this out, I could see for each resource how many different things each of these people are working on as I go through. So that gives me a good visibility into that. But Sophia could come in here and say, I could say, oh, what resources do I need to hire? Put that question to Sophia. Hopefully she'll give me some analysis on where my bottlenecks and or shortcomings are. So it's telling me the areas, and it looks like I have needs across the board. So as it looks there and it gives me the answers on this, it says the specific numbers will be based on some further assessment. But let me just ask it for the heck of it. I'm going to say, how many of each resource do I need? So I can ask it a follow-on question to the initial question, and it'll answer it in that context. And hopefully it'll give me some idea of the degree to which I'm short of people, because there may be just some temporary bottlenecks as opposed to needs for a longer term hire or to contract something out. So it says it needs more information on the number of resources to evaluate the current workload. And so it's given me some guidance on the things that I should look at here. And ultimately, if possible, will be based upon the resource plan that we have in place. Another piece that we have in here is the enterprise architecture area. And as I mentioned, it's not a full enterprise architecture repository or solution, but the elements that you want to track in here can be tracked. And if you do have an enterprise architecture solution in place, we can use our OneConnect solution to basically bring that data into here and leverage what you have in your EA solution. But notice in addition to a project portfolio, I've got multiple portfolios listed here. I've got a product portfolio, a business capabilities portfolio, an applications portfolio, a portfolio of value streams, and even an organizational portfolio that we have in here. So the idea here is, as I go in, and we talked about plan types, if I was looking at products, right, you could have a whole different details page that maybe has a product vision canvas in here with all the aspects of that. You could have the life cycle. You can have plans, work plans in here for releases, et cetera, and maybe the financials for total cost of ownership as we go through all of this. But the idea is that this portfolio item and this product can then be leveraged with associations all throughout the organization, so we can associate them with strategies and projects and other enterprise architecture elements as we go through this. So the key here is that we can have this. Let's just say from this product perspective, I decided I wanted to use that visualize capability that we showed earlier on, but now I'm doing it from a product-centric view. And I can see that this product Bachmanity has actually dependency on two other products, both predecessor and successor. But the runway for this shows that it is key or associated with supporting 4 different key results and 4 different strategies ultimately, and that it's aligned with 2 different projects and the business capabilities that have to be addressed in order for this to happen as well. So the idea is we're getting visuals in there from the perspective or the view of the product as opposed to the strategy like we did before. Once again, very flexible and be able to drill into any one of these at any given point in time. Now, the other key piece that I'll finish with is the modeler. And this really gives us the ability to do what-if analysis. And you can create new models at any given point in time. And you can do different models for different parts of the organization. And you can actually come in and establish a model. You could establish a population of projects or potential projects that you'd like to include in the model. And here we'd like to consider 40 different elements, a combination of both active and proposed and on-hold projects, for example, that we have in here. And then to do those, I could take a look at this at any given point in time. I could look at my financial commitments that would be required to do this, across different periods of time. I can look at the resource requirements that are needed across these periods of time. And I can see to do all of those, I have significant over allocations in order to make that happen. And I can do different scenarios where I can say, let's say I want to go through a scenario where I want to evaluate selecting and deselecting projects or moving project timelines around, et cetera, such that to get within a $10 million budget, and let me go back to the financial side of this, I might have a certain selection of projects and or timing of those projects that would help me come into within that $10 million budget, which this does. But you can see I'm only doing 17 of those projects, and a number of them are then are now out of that scenario that we can't do. But I would also say by the time I got in the financial budgets, I can see that, I also probably have a more realistic resource plan where I only have slight overages in here and I might be able to achieve this. Now we could run this with say another $15 million scenario, et cetera, and then we can compare the different analyses as we go through. So for example, in this particular case, I could see that the budget and the committed effort with resources and the targeted benefits here, I can see that if I got an additional $5 million, I could do 10 more projects, but I could also get another $20 million worth of benefit for another $5 million of investment. It might be worth my while to go pursue that. So once again, we have that type of information at our fingertips. We have the traditional bubble charting that you're used to seeing in portfolio management that I can look at. In this case, I'm looking at prioritization via benefits and the size of the projects by the bubbles. And I can even show which projects we didn't select in the gray so we can see that we overlook something that needs to be in there. And once again, that visualizer comes back into play here in a different perspective where in this what-if analysis, I can see this is what I selected. Here's the unselected predecessors and successors. Do I need to pick something and include it because of its dependency? Or should I also reconsider maybe in my analysis because here's the way it's aligned in a runway with strategies, key results, different projects and products. So once again, all can factor into my decisions. So ultimately, this all comes back and ties together very nicely and allows you to do these complex strategic portfolio management exercises and disciplines that you need to pursue. Let's go and wrap up. Now, There are a bunch, and you'll see some examples when you get these slides, that there are Sophia AI scenarios for strategic planning, where you could help it identify patterns and opportunities and potential risks in your strategic plan to help you modify that. On your portfolio optimization, you can provide summaries of the portfolio data and analysis there, or even budget plan optimization that you might want to do in the ideas area. There's work management, where you might do some business case definition, or where you might go into OnePlan and ask it how you might mitigate risks or identify those risks. So these are all different scenarios that you can get into. Resource capacity planning, you can help have it suggest you a resource plan and layout for a plan, as well as a work plan. And even the financial analysis that we talked about. So once again, not time to go through all of these in detail, but I just wanted to expose you to the possibilities that we have within. So for summarization and next step, let's just say that hopefully we've covered here today for you that IT does have its own unique challenges for successful project delivery, that better alignment with strategy and business architecture is needed to really enhance or increase the likelihood of successful outcomes. And strategic portfolio management approaches, or SPM approaches, have become important in today's business environment. So there's rationale because increased complexity and the fast pace of change requires that we enhance our methods and approaches in order to be successful and competitive. And the introduction of generative AI is adding to the degree of change and impacting the IT portfolio, and even maybe the nature of some of the projects you're going to be asked to embark upon. Now, OnePlan provides end-to-end strategic portfolio management. We do it via the Microsoft Cloud. So it's in a secure and compliant environment. And we can meet you where you're at. You don't have to bite off everything I showed you here today in order to get benefit. We can take a crawl, walk, run approach with you, and we're happy to, engage with you to kind of give you an idea what that would take. And the use of AI provides valuable assistance for our SPM efforts, and it's only getting better. We're continuing to evolve Sophia, and it's going to provide more and more value in the near term. Just so you know, we do this on a regular basis. We're recognized by a number of folks for our thought leadership and the things that we've accomplished within the project and portfolio management realm. Microsoft has named us their Global PPM Partner of the Year or their finalist 5 consecutive years. Gartner has given us the Peer Insights Voice of the Customer for strategic portfolio management, as well as Infotech and Software Reviews recognizing us for these disciplines. We do these webinars all the time, and we have some upcoming ones. We got another one next week on March 28th. On April 2nd on getting started with OnePlan's portfolio plan module. And we've got another one on April 4th on transforming corporate strategy office. Now, you can try this out. OnePlan does allow you to go out to oneplan.ai/solutions. And I would recommend, if you want to try the things you saw today, that you use the strategic portfolio management template to get started. And you can populate it with sample data with a checkbox, such that you can get the visualizations and things that you saw here today. Or you can find it up on Microsoft AppSource at www.appsource.com. Now, we offer free trials. We're happy to chaperone you on these. You don't have to do it alone. We're happy to engage with you on that. We can actually do a roadmap workshop if you like, where we can help you identify what it will take to get into a solution like this and understand what the total cost of ownership might be, because you may already have the Microsoft technologies and others you may already leverage in here. So it may not be more than an incremental investment for you. Just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai, and we're happy to discuss these with you. Or you can research us more at www.oneplan.ai. Thank you for your time today. Thank you again, and have a great day.